Can you imagine being 3 races away from being crowned world champion, and having your own team force you to lose valuable track time right at the most decisive moment of the year? The situation could not have come at a more critical time. Piastri, who at one point in the season was solidly dominant thanks to a series of impeccable performances including a majestic victory in Zandvoort, has seen that lead disintegrate following a run of disappointing results, marked by errors, penalties and accidents. What was once a comfortable 34-point gap over teammate Lando Norris has transformed into a 24-point deficit, with just 3 races left to go. The math doesn't lie. Every second on the track, every micro-adjustment in the car's configuration, every lap thrown in practice could make the difference between the title and defeat. The news that he will give up his car in Abu Dhabi FP1 not only deprives him of those fundamental minutes, but also symbolizes a break in the momentum that a driver needs when he finds himself on the ropes. In the context of modern Formula One, where the margins between success and failure are measured in milliseconds, taking away an entire acclimatization and development session from a driver can have devastating consequences. And even more so if that driver goes through a drop in mental and technical performance as evident as Piastri's in the last rounds. The pressure doesn't just come from the championship. Internally, McLaren also experiences its own conflict of interest. On the one hand, it must comply with FIA regulations, promoted to give visibility to young talents like Alex Dunn. On the other hand, they know that they are sacrificing the preparation of one of their 2 contenders for the title, a driver whom they themselves have helped build as a figure of the future. It is an ethical and strategic dilemma that exposes a structural contradiction in the current regulations. The desire to develop new drivers can end up compromising the top of the competition. Brazil and Qatar were immediately ruled out. Both Grand Prix are part of the sprint format weekends, which drastically limits the team's operational flexibility. In these events, the only free practice has incalculable value because it directly precedes the qualifying session that defines the sprint grid. Giving up those 60 minutes isn't just reckless, it's downright self-destructive. And while McLaren has shown great adaptability throughout the year, sacrificing a key session in such a compressed format would have been an early sentence. The other option was Las Vegas. But this was discarded for more technical and logistical reasons. It is an urban circuit, recent on the calendar, with extreme characteristics. Long straights, violent braking, very close walls, and a surface that is still poorly settled. Furthermore, the night temperatures on that track create serious difficulties in putting the tires in the optimal operating window, a challenge already known to McLaren since last season. The risk of a rookie mistake in this scenario not only jeopardizes the car and the team's work, but deprives the starting driver of vital data. Gambling on losing FP1 in these types of conditions would have been even more dangerous than in a sprint. Thus, Abu Dhabi emerged as the only realistic option. But even this decision has nuances that are worth unraveling. The Yas Marina circuit, although technical, offers a controlled environment. Large escape areas, low probability of serious incidents in FP1, and a route that has been explored to the point of exhaustion by all the teams. Furthermore, the historical data accumulated on this circuit allows for almost surgical prior preparation from the simulators. In terms of operational risk, it is a track that offers stability, something McLaren desperately needed. There is an additional point that many overlook. FP1 in Abu Dhabi is run during the day, while qualifying and the race are held at dusk. This means that track conditions, asphalt temperature, grip level, and tire behavior change radically between sessions. From a technical point of view, the usefulness of FP1 to adjust the car's setup for the race is limited. It is a session that is usually used more for aerodynamic tests, compound evaluations, and control data collection, not so much for defining decisive strategies. McLaren is betting that this natural limitation on FP1 value will help cushion the impact of the loss for Piastri. However, it is still a costly decision. Because beyond the technical component, there is the psychological aspect. On a weekend where the pressure will be unbearable, knowing that you are starting with a self-imposed handicap can generate insecurity, anxiety, and distrust. And this is particularly dangerous when we talk about a driver who is on a losing streak. The risk is not only not having the data, but also that Piastri feels that he is at a disadvantage compared to his own teammate. But McLaren plays with an important card: Piastri's previous experience at Yas Marina. Here he was F2 champion. Here he carried out his first F1 test. He has ridden more here than almost any other circuit. It is a track where he knows every centimeter, every curve, every braking point. In theory, if there is one place you can survive this deprivation, it is here. However, races are not won with theory. They are one in the millimeter execution of each detail. And if McLaren's decision turns out to be not as calculated as they think, Abu Dhabi could become not a practical solution, but the scenario where the title slips out of their hands. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella candidly explained what is happening. According to him, this year's MCL 39 car requires a driving style that varies drastically depending on the grip level of the track. And therein lies the problem. Norris has shown an intuitive ability to adapt to unpredictable conditions, while Piastri tends to excel when the car is in a stable window of high grip and predictable conditions. On tracks with a lot of slippage, high temperatures, or smooth surfaces, the lack of adaptive sensitivity is costing you dearly. This contrast is critical, because while Norris has learned to surf chaos, Piastri needs order. And losing FP1 in Abu Dhabi, although it may seem inconsequential in terms of useful data, is a lost opportunity to generate that order, to feel comfortable with the car, to adjust fine details that can make the difference between controlling the car or oversteering in the final sector. It's not just about rolling. It's about reconnecting with trust. And that confidence is not achieved in the simulator or with data sheets. It is achieved by feeling the car on the track. In conclusion, yes, there are precedents. Yes, other drivers have survived the loss of an FP1. But circumstances matter. And today, Oscar Piastris are one of maximum pressure, declining performance, and a desperate need to regain confidence. This is not just another FP1. It is a session that could define by action or by omission the result of an entire championship. The case of Oscar Piastri is not an isolated episode. It is a reflection of a broader structural tension that runs through Formula One in its 2025 season, a category that is desperately trying to balance its competitive present with its future development. And in that search, decisions such as making the inclusion of rookie drivers in free practice sessions mandatory are beginning to show deep cracks that could put the sporting integrity of the championship at risk. This drama is not just a story about a driver missing a training session. It is a symptom of a category that, in its desire to democratize access, could be destabilizing its peak. The FIA regulations requiring 2 FP1 sessions per car for rookie drivers were based on a commendable intention: to offer real opportunities to young talents at a time when private testing has almost completely disappeared. In theory, these sessions would allow future stars to adapt to Formula One gradually, without compromising the team's performance. But in practice, what has happened is that this obligation has collided head-on with the immediate interests of the leading teams and their star drivers. And furthermore, it has created a situation in which the preparation for a critical race can be altered by a regulation that prioritizes the exposure of inexperienced drivers over maximum performance. In short, the Piastri case forces us to look beyond a simple replacement in a free practice. It invites us to question the current design of the championship, the application of its rules, and the coherence between training objectives and competition objectives. The 2025 Formula One season is starkly showing that the attempt to combine talent development and sporting excellence in the same time frame can be a risky experiment. Perhaps the time has come to rethink that balance, before more championships are decided not on the track but in the office. The case of Oscar Piastri in Abu Dhabi is not just a footnote in the history of the 2025 season. It is, potentially, one of those pivotal moments that mark the turning point in a championship campaign. Formula One is a sport of absolute precision, where the margins that separate victory from defeat are so fine that any alteration, even 60 minutes in a free practice session, can generate a domino effect that completely changes the outcome of the World Championship. And that is precisely what is at stake here. Piastri still has the opportunity to hit the table. He can still, with talent and determination, turn this disadvantage into a redemption story. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.